So today we are going to be doing an interview, and this is part 1 of 4. I hope you enjoy. If you have any questions, please leave it in the comments and we'll get together and do a Q&A later. Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Women of War podcast. I'm here today with a special guest, Tina White. She is a warrior in her own right. She is a caretaker to a cancer patient, in which we will be delving into this episode. Tina White is a lifelong Texian who is 8th generation. Her family has resided in the Lone Star State since before Texas was its own republic. She married her high school sweetheart over 3 decades ago. She homeschooled their 2 children from preschool to high school graduation. Tina has served on boards of directors and executive boards of directors and has volunteered her time and talents since she was 18. She's even won an award or 2 for what she's done for her community. She has degrees in English and history. She's a published writer and photographer, a foodie, unplanned caretaker, and her most important title is that of Mimi to her first grandchild. Here we are with Tina.
Hello, thank you for having me.
Of course. I want this to be more of a conversation, but I do have a couple of questions.
Okay.
So, how did you actually meet your husband?
It was our senior year of high school.
Mm-hmm.
I actually met him a couple of times before I met him. We were at a football game, and I was at Pipette, and we had a very short amount of time where we could run and, run to the snack bar or whatever. I really wanted a Snickers, and this was way before Betty White and her Snickers thing, but I really wanted a Snickers. And so there he was, standing there blocking the walkway, talking to his friend. And my thought was, I don't want to be rude, but I don't want to say excuse me either. So I walked through them. Unbeknownst to me, he said to his friend, by the end of the year, I'll meet that girl. And that was in September, because I was at a football game. Then there was Christmas break, and he showed up at a movie when I was there with all of, with a large group of my friends, and he ended up sitting beside me, and I just remember thinking, boy, I would never date him. And then comes spring break, and then I met him, and I didn't know is he had been shoe polishing my car the whole week before spring break. So it didn't take him to the end of the year, but he tried hard, and basically we've been inseparable since then.
That's such a sweet story. When did y'all find out that he had cancer?
The actual date was April 10th of 2022. He had been traveling for work, and he had been in Louisiana working, and had stayed in this one hotel, and he had just remarked about how uncomfortable the bed was, and he had gotten a little cold while he was there, so he had gone and gotten him some medicine and to take care of it. And one day that week he had worked 24 hours because he had to go out to an oil well pad and wait his turn, and so he'd been out a lot. And so you're not going to get well as fast whenever you're not sleeping and working really, really long hours. And but honestly, cough drops became his best friend because he was really coughing, and the cough remained after, but that cold kind of hung on for a little bit, and then his back was kind of hurting, and the hurting in the back went on for several months. And he went to our our family doctor, and he prescribed him some Celebrex with a pat on the back. Said, "There you go, buddy. This will fix you right up." And he had been taking the Celebrex a couple of weeks, and finally he came to me and he said, "Tina, how long does it take for this to start helping? Because it's not helping so far." And I said, "Well, are you taking it every day?" And yes. In fact, he said, in fact, I've started taking a couple more than what I'm supposed to for it to hurry up and help. I'm like, "Oh, please don't do that. If one's not helping, don't take more than that." And I said, "Well, we'll get you fixed up." And to go back, whenever he was there in Louisiana for those 2 weeks, I actually drove down to visit him because, 2 weeks is a long time, and he really wanted me there with him. And whenever he got in, I was asleep across the end of the bed. And he said, "Why aren't you in the bed?" And I was like, "You were right. This bed is really terrible." And he had actually been sleeping on the couch, not the bed, because the bed was really terrible. So anyway, I fast forward to April, and we were back in Louisiana, and much more comfortable bed. But his back, it was still there. It was still hurting. And just one day, like on Wednesday of that week, it's like he lost all his strength. And I thought, okay, worst case scenario is he broke that muscle. That I don't know what the muscle's called. That's not my strong point, but I think worst case scenario is he ripped that muscle. He tore that muscle. And for his strength to go out and him not even be able to lift up a sledgehammer, and you have to understand he's strong, he's healthy, never sick, never, since he was born, all through school, he won awards, perfect attendance, and just always strong and healthy as an ox. And it was nagging. It was just not going away, and didn't think much about it. It was a little odd, but it was okay. He'd get better, but whenever that Wednesday, whenever just his whole strength just evaporated from him, and he was trying to swing a sledgehammer and couldn't pick it up, I was worried. And I told him, I said, "Okay, when we get back home, I'm going to get you set up with a doctor, and he'll be able to find out what's wrong with you." And I don't know why I said that. I'd seen this doctor exactly one time in my life. This was an internal medicine doctor, and I don't know why I was so assured of this doctor was going to find the cure. And so we came home that Saturday, and Sunday we had planned hamburgers with the family, and he didn't feel good enough to go because his back hurt so bad, and his ribs were really, really hurting. And thinking back, his ribs had given him some problems a couple of times over the last 2 years. Wasn't anything that we ever really thought about, because he always had good excuses for everything. Oh, he was having to lean over a cage and do work on this hose, and so of course that's going to make your ribs hurt. But they were hurting him so bad, he took a very wide ace bandage, wrapped it around his ribs that Sunday night, and he went to bed. He was not feeling good. He did end up, having hamburgers with the family, but it's not what he wanted to do. He felt so poorly. And having a brand new granddaughter, just a couple of months old, he wouldn't have given up the opportunity to see her and spend time with her. And so that was really kind of a marker that really stands out. Go home. he wraps his ribs. I didn't know. I was having some issues with my heart, and honestly, I needed to go to the hospital. My heart was out of rhythm. I wasn't supposed to go to sleep. I wasn't supposed to do anything except for go straight to the hospital. But I knew he did not feel good enough to take me, and I couldn't drive. And I thought, oh, I'll be okay. And, just need to let him be okay and be comfortable. And that's what was on my mind. That's what I was thinking. At about 2 or 2:30, I'd fallen asleep in my recliner. About 2 or 2:30, he got up and he came in and checked on me. And he coughed and he sneezed at the same time, and that woke me up. And after he coughed and sneezed at the same time, he fell flat on the floor. He dropped. He fell to the floor. And I could not help him. I could not move. I could not do anything. I was paralyzed. And I couldn't help him. And it was such a feeling of helplessness. And I couldn't believe what had just happened. Like, how common is it for someone to cough and sneeze at the same time? But then to drop down, well, he broke 2 ribs in a couple of places whenever he coughed and sneezed, because he had him bound so tight in that ace bandage. And so that definitely started the journey, because unbeknownst to me, he had planned on canceling the appointment the very next morning that I had made with this doctor that I just knew was going to have all the answers. And but we did attend the appointment together, and I'd just gotten a new biography and I couldn't wait to read it. And I actually, brought it to the doctor's appointment and sat in the little corner in the little chair and had opened it up and started reading it. And meanwhile, the nurse came in and did things with the bed I never knew could happen. She turned it into a chair for him because he could not sit, because he was in so much pain. And and I don't mean to sound aloof or anything, but I was just sitting in the chair reading a book. But I didn't think there was anything big that was going to happen. But to back up a minute, as I was getting ready that morning and about to walk out the door, I heard a voice. And the voice said 3 words. He has cancer. And I thought, there's no way. This is a backache. Yes, his back goes out every 10 years, and it's been like 13, 14 years. He's overdue for something with his back. It's not a big deal. And so the doctor came in and just lightly touched his back and said, Mr. White, what's your family history of cancer? And I'm like, where is this doctor coming from? This doctor that I had so much faith, now all of a sudden I'm questioning him. Like, why that question? It's his back. And that began this journey that's started almost 2 years ago. Well, if you count, December and January and, those months in between. But since we found out he actually had cancer, we're almost 2 years into this journey.
Thank you for sharing. Do you mind letting everyone know what type of cancer?
Sure. And to kind of pick up where I just left off at, the doctor was so good. He truly was. They had an x-ray machine and x-rayed him, took, lots and lots of vials of blood and did what they could to try and narrow this down. But the x-rays showed that there was something other than the broken ribs, because he told him, boy, whenever you break a rib, you do it good. It showed some masses within his rib cage. Um, and so we were like, well, that's strange. That's not anything we've ever expected to hear or him have to experience. Within an hour of leaving the office, the doctor called. He called himself. And, that's usually not good news. And he had more tests that he wanted done, but he said it's definitely cancer. He didn't say what kind, he didn't speculate, but living in the age that we do, I took the little bit of knowledge that I had that was definite, and I searched on the internet for it, and it came back with 2 words I'd never heard in my life: multiple myeloma. I'm like, multiple myeloma, what is that? Well, it's a blood cancer, and it's in the bone marrow, and it eats the bones. But we're at the point that he no longer just has it in his bones, in his bone marrow, eating his bones. It's, of course, caused tumors. And so that automatically had him at stage 3. Multiple myeloma only has 3 stages. And since then, it has gone into his soft tissue. So it likes to hang out in his soft tissue whenever it has the chance. And but I have to say, the doctors are so good to, get on a treatment that helps him and takes it out of the soft tissue. And, we see tumors pop up, several. We've seen several in a day pop up in 6 hours, going to bed one night and waking up, and his whole rib cage is just full of tumors. And so yes, we have gotten to know multiple myeloma in a way that we never thought we would. And it's not a nice cancer. It's very brutal. It's rare. The last statistics that I saw were from 2022, and there's less than 150,000 people in the U.S. living with or in remission from multiple myeloma. And it's very rare, but even though it's very rare, it's still the second most popular is such a weird word to use with cancer, but the second most diagnosed blood cancer there is. And I know people might think, well, 150,000, that's not a lot. But the thing is, it's incurable. There's no cure for it. Your only hope is for remission. And some people are able to obtain remission that lasts 20 years, but that's really not the norm. I've read many accounts that when people are diagnosed with multiple myeloma, they die 6 weeks later. It's been remarkable how many times I've seen that it's 6 weeks later. And it's because it's pretty silent. It's a backache. It's because it loves the spine. And the thing about it eating the spine is your spine is there to protect your spinal cord and all these nerves. And my husband has 3 fractures in his back right now, and they're and that's kind of scary. He's gotten in trouble from a doctor before for lifting up a backpack. She's like, that could paralyze you. But we try to continue each day on just as normal as we possibly can, because if we don't, then we let the cancer win.
Yeah. And as you see, for people here on YouTube, we're wearing the maroon ribbons. Most people are familiar with the pink ribbon, which is for October for breast cancer awareness, but March is for multiple myeloma, and it is the maroon ribbon. So we are supporting multiple myeloma by wearing this to help bring awareness to multiple myeloma. What is the most surprising thing about cancer that you've encountered this far?
Okay. Well, you told me that you wanted this to be real.
Yes.
And you wanted this to be raw.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to be honest with you.
Okay.
The most surprising thing that I've encountered about cancer is that people can be really mean and cruel. They can say things that astound me in a very, very ugly way. Multiple myeloma, they don't know exactly how someone gets it. It's thought and believed to be from the environment. And I have a hypothesis to what that could be. And I shared that with someone, and they said, "Oh, so you gave him cancer." Now, there's nothing that I have or do that could ever give my husband cancer or anyone else.
Right.
It's after the fact that you think, that you spend time, like, how did this happen? What could be the cause? Like, you're questioning everything. And it's what my hypothesis is. I don't know for certain, but that one thing is what I suspect. I don't know if I'm right or not, but their answer was not, astonishment. "Oh, what are you going to do?" No, they went straight to, "So you gave your husband cancer." I still hear that voice in my head saying that to me. And I mean, of course, I was proper and didn't lash out or say anything rude or hateful, even though the most terrible thing in the world was just said to me.
Yeah.
There's been, I've had people come up to me. We know them, but I wouldn't put them on our friends list,
Mm-hmm.
Never had them to our house for dinner or anything like that. But they took it upon themselves to yell at me and gripe at me and tell me, "How dare you make your husband work?" Well, if they knew my husband, they would know that this is part of his identity. This is who he is. It's very important to him, and he's worked on days that he shouldn't be working, days that he's literally crawled because he couldn't walk. He's been green. He's not been able to breathe. He's been hunched over and just, not in a good way. And for some reason, they've allowed him to stay at work. And it's where he wanted to be because it's the most normal thing for him to do. In a world that we've been immersed in, kind of like, in the old days, you learned to swim by being thrown in the lake, or we've been thrown into the lake of cancer. And learning how to tread and swim and hold our own against it. But they were like, "How dare you make your husband work?" I'm like, "Well, if you knew us, you would not be asking that question, because I can't make him do anything, and this is what he wants to do." But that's not the answer that they wanted to hear. And we're very private people, but I don't put much out on Facebook or anything like that, because there's been terribly rude comments on there. And you would think that those are the people that love you and support you and want the best for you, and things like that. And I've just been very shocked at the stance that people have chosen to take, the rudeness and the words that they've chosen to use. And and these are supposed to be our friends, or even family, or even with people that they have made up in their mind that we should choose this route. not the route that we've chosen. Well, we don't step into anything haphazardly. We have researched it. We've looked into it. We've exhaustively looked at things to know, is this what we should do? Is this the way we should go? The doctor wants this, but do we want this? And that's something that we're kind of very present in right now. He's fixing to go through another procedure, but we know what we want to do, and of course the outcome is all for longevity. We want both quality and quantity of life, and it's not always possible with this cancer, but it's still what we strive for and look for, and that's our ultimate goal, is for him to have just the best life that he can, and of course to finally seek that remission. But to go back to the question, is just the hatefulness of people and just their ignorance, really. And I'm not saying this to be mean to anyone, because even though I've had meanness shown to me, and the thing is, it's always toward me, never toward my husband. The meanness always comes to me. But I don't seek to be mean in response. So I only share this because I don't know, honestly, I don't know if other people have to deal with this or not. I don't know if they've dealt with the hatred and the hateful comments and meanness and the ignorant things that people say. I don't know if other people, have to deal with that, or if this is just singularly toward us in our particular position. But it has been the most surprising.
Thank you for sharing. Stay tuned for part 2 of 4. I can't wait for everyone to see it. This is Megan signing off with Women of Word Podcast. Don't forget to like, love, subscribe, comment, all those things. It really does help the podcast grow, and I would greatly appreciate it. Thank y'all.